Hello everyone and welcome back once again to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Today, we're not looking at an airplane. We're going to be taking a look at this behemoth, this beautiful, beautiful Oshkosh Truck Corporation Stryker. Funny enough, not made directly in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. They're made just a little bit of north, somewhere in between Oshkosh and Appleton. I've been past the factory where they make these. In fact, I saw one on fire. If I can find that picture, I will show it to you. That one was red. Ours is in the standard North American airport lime green or neon green. And we're going to do a quick overview of this truck. We are at Whitman Regional, just because it's named after Oshkosh, so why not start your opening bit at the Oshkosh Airport. But we're actually going to go up to the Safety Training Center in Appleton, Wisconsin, and we'll take a look at the truck further there. So be back in just a minute. Okay, and here we are at Appleton International Airport in Appleton, Wisconsin. We're going to be taking the Stryker through a full cold and dark startup, take it over to the public safety building, which is just on the other side of a fence, and do some simulated takedowns from the driver's seat of the Stryker. That's one of the unique things, for those of you who don't know about this specific apparatus, is the operator, the water cannons and all of that stuff can be operated directly from the driver's seat. So the idea behind this truck is a fast, rapid response where you don't have to wear turnout gear. You don't have, the danger of walking up to a potential aircraft fire. Obviously, aviation fuel is very volatile, both 100 low lead and Jet A. So you don't necessarily want to be out in the elements fighting the fire. So that's the whole idea. It's similar to the McLaren F1 or the new Sabre. It is a central mounted driver's seat position, and then you've got passenger seating to each side. So if I go to the cockpit here, you can see we are in the center, and I have passenger seating to each side. Let me do a quick adjustment on my GPU here. Frames are a little bit low for my liking, so that's much better. So, cold and dark startup is pretty straightforward, actually. This was designed to be a pretty intuitive, pretty simple to operate truck, and that's followed through here. Weirdly enough, this is actually one of the most in-depth mods from Flight Sim, and it's a truck. But anyway, so you come over to this guy here, and this is going to be your ignition switch. So you have a run, and that's going to turn on all of your main functions here. And then one more turn to the right will start the engine. We saw a little turnover, and our RPM gauge rises up there. Now, it is worth noting, this is not what the Stryker sounds like. This just sounds like a Bonanza or something. But, you get what you can get. So that's the one thing that I think could use work right now on this is the engine model. But this is the initial release. There are more versions to come, which is pretty exciting. So hopefully we'll see some functionality on these two screens here. Right now they don't do anything. They're just dark screens. I didn't even realize that there were clickable sticks on these joysticks. That's insane. Anyway, let's get some external lighting going. So that's going to be on this panel here. This is our main master light, and right now this light that we have toggled on here is our airport beacon, or beacons in this case. So whenever you see these operating in or around the airports that they do operate at, I don't know where I was going with that, those beacons will be on, and you'll see that on pretty much every emergency vehicle. So if you have a sheriff's department or a police department that is responsible for patrolling the airport, they'll have some sort of amber beacon that will strobe as they drive around. Then we have all of our emergency lighting, our red emergency lighting. Pretty self-explanatory if you're going to an emergency. And then if you're really trying to get attention, or if you're trying to get someone out of the way, we can alternate our headlights in a wigwag pattern, like so. And all of these can be turned on individually, so I can just have my top red lights. I can just have my side red lights. We already saw just the beacon before, and then I can just have my wigwags going. So we'll go back to just the airport beacon for now. Additional lighting here, you have a dome light. I believe that's door lighting, and then you can increase and decrease the brightness of all of your gauges. I don't know how well that's going to show up on the video. You have fog lights, and you can actually see as I toggle them on there, you can see the additional lighting that's cast. And then a high beam switch. So right now we've got fog lights and high beams on the front of the truck. So I go... So these are our park lights. Headlights off. All lighting is off except for our beacons that we left on. Our park lights, which function pretty much the same as park lights on a car. And then I can turn on individually our fog lights and headlights, our fog lights and high beams. And then I can also do them in conjunction the normal lights. So fog lights, secondary floods, and then the high beams. Not 100% certain everything on this panel. I would imagine this is like a PTO panel. So this guy, if you turn this on, you get what looks to be a brake warning of some kind. This is your hazard lights, your flashing hazards. Those flash there and on the rear. And then the bunny rabbit and turtle, I assume, is to increase and decrease the engine RPM when you're parked. Excuse me, the engine RPM when you're parked. I'm just speculating here. Climate control, that's self-explanatory. Fan speed, temperature, even... Look at this. Even the little... I don't even know what that does, but I can click it. I can click it. That's cool. And then you can set head vent versus defrost, your internal fans, your heat for the interior, and I believe this is mirror heat. Then these are your drive modes. So you have rear wheels. You have a diff lock for the first set of the second set of rear axles and the front axles. And then you can lock all four of them. But I don't have a way to show that off. I don't think that's actually modeled. It's just the switches there. And then if I slide ever so slightly to the right, I've got these guys, which for whatever reason I can't quite... Oh, no, I done it. So there's a little bit of a glitch where if you move around in the cockpit too much, it gets kind of PO'd at you. Not 100% sure what these are. I would guess there's some sort of water tanks, different dispersing agents. So, you know, maybe this is a foam. I'm forgetting all of my other dispersant types. Not modeled yet. These appear to be switches for additional external lighting on the truck. But as far as I can tell, they don't do anything. I don't see anything. You know, maybe eventually that will be modeled. This truck is outfitted with those lights from factory, but they just don't seem to do anything here, so we'll leave all of those off for now. And then again, additional lighting that seems to not do anything as of yet, but I am hopeful for this mod, and if nothing else, it's just kind of cool to drive around. Come back over to the center here. Back to a good driving position. These guys I haven't even experimented with. I just found these today. I don't know what these do. Not a clue. I don't see anything different. Ah, okay, so one of them turns on my light on my hose. So I'm guessing that is that one? That one? Probably the one with the light. So it should be off. Now it should be on. Okay, so that's my light. I'm guessing this all has to do with the fire hoses. So you've got a link versus, so cage versus uncaged, or latch versus unlatched. I don't know. And then the very last control is actually the spraying of the fire hose, and you just do that with the flap keys. So what'll end up happening is if I hit F7 or I hit my first increment of flaps, I get water to spray out, and I can point that water wherever I want with my joystick. And then if I want the water to go even further out, I'll hit F7 again. And F7 again. For those really intense blazes. F7 additionally, and I think that's as far out as it goes. It is. So that's that. I wonder if you can change the hose. Is that what changes with that? Nope, it still comes out of the top. Okay, well, I don't know. Not sure. Anyway, nonetheless, let's get rolling here. So this would be where you have your drive motor. This looks like something straight out of a Freightliner Cascadia, like the old Cascadia box truck cabs. I used to drive them, and this is identical to what those look like. So you have your drive mode selector. There is no park. Park is just done by selecting neutral and applying the park brake, which is what we've done here. So I'm going to push in our park brake and shut off the park brake, and I'm going to select drive. That doesn't really seem to do anything, and I'll explain why. So if I go to neutral, I've selected neutral, and it's monitoring neutral, and I turn off the hose water, and I increase our throttle, we start to roll forward. So I really don't think that has anything to do with the mod. Oh, we get to kill you. I'm so glad. So all of the gauges, for the most part, are self-explanatory. You have a tachometer, speedometer, temperature, fuel condition gauges, brake temperature, battery voltage, I would assume. And then this guy over here is the interesting one. So this is like kind of like an inclinometer, load indicator thing. Basically, if you get up to some good speed here, so we'll accelerate our little Cessna. And if I do some really aggressive turns, you can see that gauge kind of goes crazy. So that's the only thing I can guess what it's for, is kind of telling you, you know, how much water's sloshing around back there or whatever. So this is fully drivable. You can take it pretty much anywhere. The only issue you really run into is with the flight sim ground effects. So because most people aren't driving their airplanes all over the roads, they're not going to have the smoothest experience, and that's kind of the case with this. But once you get past that, pretty golden. As you can see, brake lights are modeled. Steering's done with the rudder pedals. But if you really wanted to bind this to something else, you could. Let's turn off that headlight on the boom. I'll tell you what, actually, let's simulate a fire that we're running to. So we'll turn on our emergency lights. No siren as far as I know. A little bit difficult to keep it in a straight line. I've never personally driven a Stryker, but I do know one of the drivers who does the road tests for these, and he says these things are amazingly rock solid. Okay, coming into the public training facility here. I actually should have made a left sooner, but we'll still get there. Excuse me, Mr. Semi. I have a fire to get to. This is all the default I almost said FedEx, because there's a FedEx 727 over off to our right. But the default flight sim scenery, so nothing crazy fidelity-wise. But we'll roll into this little faux neighborhood that they've built. Past, that's supposed to be a FedEx 727. Been on board that airplane, actually, believe it or not. And over to our burn tower here. So burn tower, and then this is the structure we're going to be fighting our mock fire at. It's unfortunate. Flight Sim actually really hasn't modeled fire in the game, which kind of sucks, but what can you do? Alright, so here we are on scene. Let's go ahead and get the brakes on. Let's get the hose going. Actually, let's get the hose light on. I was super stoked about that. Alright, and water's on. We'll swing it over to the house. And attack this side of the fire. We'll come around the other side and drop some more water. Oh, lag nation. Doesn't like being on the ground much, Flight Sim, eh? So there we go. Fire suppressed to the point where our FFs can make a tactical entry and work the fire from the inside. So we'll shut off our hose here. And we'll shut off our emergency lights. It is worth pointing out, so if I have all of our emergency lights on, like they are now, and I shut off the master on the real truck, what would happen on the real truck? You shut this master off, all of your lights would... Oh. That is what happened. Okay, never mind. I stand corrected. I was mistaken. I had an issue before. It must have just been a glitch one time around. But I had an issue before where I shut the master off and all of the lights did not shut off. But that looks to be resolved now, so that's cool. That's awesome. Anyway, back to... Well, not back to. We'll head over to our little fire station here. It's just funny. The ground handling sounds almost identical to... well, it does. It's probably pulled from either a Cessna or the Baron. It doesn't quite... It doesn't quite sound like a 172 out of the game. It's very close, so... Alright, we'll back her in here. The classic Firetruck maneuver. Now, I might have an issue with reversing, because I'm using the thrust reverse to do it, but it's very weak. The truck does not reverse nearly as realistically as what it should, so just bear with me here. We are fortunately on a downhill, which is good. There we go. Alright guys, well that was a pretty quick, clean video of the Oshkosh Stryker mod for Flight Sim. One other cool thing I do want to mention before I go is that with this mod you can actually, because this is an asset in-game, other players can see you in this truck. And they can see your water effects because it's just taken from the default Flight Sim. I think it's a smoke effect, and they just turned it up a little bit. So if you go onto a multiplayer server or whatever and someone's crashing a whole bunch, you can be their fire rescue guy before they go and sloom it out. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, take it easy.